The Cartier box sat on my desk like a promise, its deep red surface catching the morning light. I ran my fingers over the embossed logo, still hardly believing it was mine. After 3 years of 60-hour weeks and sacrificed weekends, validation had finally arrived in the form of this elegant little package. "Savannah, you've earned this." Ryland's words from yesterday's meeting still echoed in my head. The way he'd placed the box in front of me, that proud mentor's smile spreading across his face. "Your dedication to the Morrison project hasn't gone unnoticed." I lifted the lid again, though I'd already checked its contents a dozen times since yesterday. The bracelet gleamed against the cream-colored cushion, each diamond catching the light like a tiny star. It was exactly the kind of piece I'd always dreamed of owning, but could never justify buying for myself. My phone buzzed. Laura's name flashed across the screen. "Please tell me you haven't worn it yet," she said, before I could even say hello. "What? The bracelet?" "Yes, the bracelet. Don't put it on." Something in her voice made my stomach clench. "Why not? What's wrong?" "I need you to check something for me." Laura's words came fast, urgent. "Go to your email and search for any receipts from Cartier in the last week." "Laura, what are you— Just do it, please." I balanced the phone between my ear and shoulder, typing with suddenly unsteady fingers. The search results populated quickly. One email from 3 days ago. I clicked it open, and the world tilted sideways. The receipt showed the bracelet had been charged to my corporate card. My corporate card that I hadn't used in weeks. "That's impossible," I whispered. "Ryland gave this to me as a bonus. For the Morrison project." "Check the timestamp on the purchase," Laura said quietly. Tuesday, 9:47 p.m., the exact time I'd been presenting the Morrison findings to the board. "I don't understand." But even as I said it, understanding was seeping in like cold water. "How did you know to look for this?" "Because Luna from accounting mentioned something weird about expense reports this morning. She said Ryland's been pulling some creative accounting lately, especially with employee gifts." My eyes fixed on the bracelet, its sparkle now seeming less like starlight and more like sharp edges waiting to cut. "Savannah," Laura's voice softened, "there's more. Remember that dinner package he gave you last month, the one at Le Bernardin?" The memory of that evening, the perfect wine pairings, the way Ryland had insisted on ordering every course, suddenly felt hollow. "Don't tell me." "Your corporate card again, but he recorded it as a client meeting." My free hand clenched into a fist. All those late nights I'd spent perfecting presentations, believing I was proving myself. All those times he'd praised my potential, positioned himself as my champion. "He's been doing this for months, hasn't he?" The words came out barely above a whisper. "I think you need to look deeper," Laura said. "This isn't just about fancy dinners and jewelry. Luna said there's a pattern, and it's bigger than just you." The morning sunlight still streamed through my office window, but it felt colder now. I stared at the Cartier box, remembering Ryland's satisfied smile as he'd handed it to me. Not pride in my accomplishments, pride in his own manipulation. "What else did Luna say?" I asked, my voice steadier than I felt. "She couldn't tell me much, but she's worried enough that she's been keeping records." "And Savannah?" Laura paused. "She thinks someone's noticed her looking into it. Yesterday, her files were accessed without authorization." The implications hit me like a physical blow. This wasn't just about fraudulent gifts. This was about power, control, and something much darker lurking beneath the surface of our polished corporate world. My phone buzzed with another incoming call. Ryland's name flashed on the screen. "He's calling me right now," I told Laura. "Don't answer. We need to figure out what's really going on first." She hesitated. "What are you going to do with the bracelet?" I looked at the beautiful trap sitting on my desk, thinking of all the strings I hadn't known were attached. My fingers traced the edge of the box one last time before I snapped it shut. "I'm going to find out exactly what game he's playing," I said, "and then I'm going to make him wish he'd never tried to make me his pawn." The office felt different now, like a stage set, where I finally noticed the artificial lights and painted backdrops. Every casual greeting, every friendly nod, I questioned it all. How many others were caught in webs they couldn't see? I'd moved the Cartier box to my bottom drawer, but I could still feel its presence like a splinter under my skin. My corporate card sat next to my keyboard, innocent-looking, despite the betrayal it represented. "Savannah?" Ryland's voice made me flinch. He stood in my doorway, radiating that practiced concern that I'd once found so reassuring. "You missed my call earlier. Everything okay?" I forced a smile. "Sorry, I was deep in the quarterly reports." The lie came easily, surprising me. "Was just about to call you back." He stepped into my office, closing the door behind him. My pulse quickened. "The bracelet fit all right?" His eyes flickered to my bare wrists. "Actually..." I pulled the box from my drawer, watching his expression carefully. "I wanted to talk to you about that." Something shifted in his face, so subtle I would have missed it before. "Is there a problem? I received an interesting email this morning." I kept my voice light, professional. "A receipt for the bracelet, charged to my corporate card." Ryland's laugh was immediate, practiced. "Oh, that. Simple mix-up in accounting. I meant to have that transferred to my personal account." He leaned forward, voice dropping conspiratorially. "Between us, the company's been a bit strict about gifts lately. I wanted to recognize your work without dealing with red tape." The explanation was smooth, reasonable. 3 days ago, I would have accepted it without question. But now... "Like the dinner at Le Bernardin?" I asked. His smile flickered. "That was a client meeting." "Really?" "Because I checked the calendar. No clients were booked that night." Silence stretched between us. Outside my office, phones rang and keyboards clicked, the mundane soundtrack to this moment of unraveling. "Savannah." Ryland's voice softened to that mentoring tone I'd heard so often. "I think you might be misinterpreting things. We've always had a great working relationship. I'd hate to see that damaged by some accounting confusion." "Confusion?" The word tasted bitter. "Is that what you call unauthorized charges, creative expense reporting?" His expression hardened. "Be careful with accusations like that. They have consequences." "Are you threatening me?" "I'm advising you." He straightened, authority replacing the friendly mentor mask. "You're talented, Savannah, real potential, but potential needs guidance, protection. The corporate world isn't always kind to lone wolves." The threat was clear beneath his words. My hands trembled slightly, but I kept my voice steady. "Thank you for the advice. And the bracelet, but I think there's been a misunderstanding." I held out the red box. "I can't accept this." Ryland didn't take it. Instead, he smiled. A new smile. One I'd never seen before. "Keep it. Consider it a reminder of everything we've built together." He moved to the door, pausing with his hand on the handle. "Oh, and about the Morrison project. Let's meet tomorrow to discuss some adjustments to your role." The door clicked shut behind him. I sat there, heart pounding, the Cartier box still in my outstretched hand. My phone buzzed. Laura. "I just saw Ryland leaving your office," she said. "Are you okay?" "No." My voice shook. Laura, he basically threatened my position. The Morrison project." I stopped, a horrible thought forming. "Wait, the Morrison numbers. I need to check something." I pulled up the project files, scanning through spreadsheets I'd reviewed countless times. But now I was looking with new eyes, seeing patterns I'd missed before. "Oh God," I whispered. "What is it?" "The revenue projections. They're inflated, significantly." My fingers flew across the keyboard, checking more documents. "These client contracts. Laura, some of these signatures look wrong." "Are you saying, I think..." I swallowed hard. "I think I've been unknowingly presenting fraudulent data to the board. For months." Silence on the line. "He's not just stealing through expense reports," I said. "He's been using me to cover up something much bigger. And now that someone's asking questions..." "He's setting you up to take the fall," Laura finished. I stared at my computer screen, at the numbers that now seemed to mock me. all those late nights, that desperate need to prove myself. He'd used it all against me. Laura, I said, my voice hardening, I need everything Luna has, every record, every suspicious transaction, and I need it before my meeting with Ryland tomorrow. Savannah, that's dangerous. If he realizes, he already does. I looked at the Cartier box, his parting gift now feeling like a collar. But he doesn't realize one thing. What's that? I'm done being his perfect protégé. Rain drummed against the coffee shop window, matching my restless pulse. Luna sat across from me, her fingers nervously tracing the rim of her untouched latte. We'd chosen this spot 3 blocks from the office, far enough to avoid familiar faces, close enough to maintain plausible deniability. I shouldn't be showing you this, Luna said, sliding a USB drive across the table. But after what happened to Melissa last year, Melissa? The name struck a chord. The senior analyst who resigned. Resigned is a nice way of putting it. Luna's voice dropped lower. She started asking questions about irregular payments. 2 weeks later, she was called into a meeting about documentation discrepancies in her reports. They gave her a choice, resign or face an internal audit. My stomach clenched. And you think Rylan? I know he did, because I processed the paperwork. Shame colored her words. I've been keeping records ever since. But he's careful. Everything has just enough legitimacy to pass a cursory check. I pocketed the drive, hyper-aware of its weight. Thank you. I know this puts you at risk. Savannah? A familiar voice cut through the cafe's ambient noise. I turned to see Remington standing there, elegant in her charcoal suit despite the rain. I thought that was you. My pulse spiked. Remington was Ryland's right hand in most projects. Had she followed us? Rem, just grabbing coffee with Luna. I forced lightness into my voice. You remember Luna from accounting? Of course. Remington's smile didn't reach her eyes. Interesting choice of venue. Bit far from the office. Sometimes you need a change of scenery, Luna said, standing abruptly. I should head back. Those expense reports won't process themselves. I watched her hurry out into the rain, praying I hadn't just exposed her. When I turned back, Remington had taken her seat. Funny thing, she said, studying me. Rylan mentioned you've been asking about expense reporting procedures. Just trying to understand the process better. I met her gaze steadily, though my hands trembled beneath the table. Really? Because he seemed concerned, you might be misinterpreting things. Did he send you to check on me? Remington's expression softened unexpectedly. No, I came to warn you. That caught me off guard. What? Listen carefully, Savannah. Tomorrow morning, IT will audit your computer. They'll find emails suggesting you've been manipulating project data. By lunch, HR will be involved. Ice spread through my veins. How do you know this? Because I've seen it before. She glanced around before continuing. 3 years ago, I was you. Rising star, dedicated worker, perfect target, the gifts, the mentoring, the gradual involvement in projects just slightly over the line. What happened? I played along. Bitterness edged her words. Became the perfect accomplice instead of the perfect scapegoat. It was that, or lose everything I'd worked for. Understanding dawned. That's why you're always at his side. Better the devil's right hand than under his boot. She stood, adjusting her blazer. You have until tomorrow morning. Whatever you're planning, do it fast. Why are you helping me? Remington paused. Because I see myself in you, and because... She hesitated. Because maybe this time, someone can actually stop him. After she left, I sat there watching rain streak down the window, mind racing. The USB drive felt heavier than ever in my pocket. My phone buzzed. Laura, where are you? She asked. I just saw Luna practically running through the lobby. Get Daniel, I said. Meet me at my place in an hour. And Laura, bring your laptop. We've got one night to save everything I've worked for. What's happening? I thought of Melissa, of Remington's bitter confession, of all the others who'd faced this choice before me. Ryland's making his move tomorrow. But this time he's picked the wrong target. Savannah, you're scaring me. Good. I stood, gathering my courage with my belongings. Because I'm done being scared. It's his turn. The rain had softened to a mist as I stepped outside. Somewhere in the building I'd called my professional home, a trap was being laid. Evidence planted, stories crafted, a narrative that would destroy everything I'd built. But Rylan had made one crucial mistake. He'd taught me too well, shown me exactly how to play this game. And now, with Luna's evidence and Remington's warning, I had something he didn't expect. I had nothing left to lose. My phone buzzed again, Rylan's name lighting up the screen. I declined the call, watching droplets race down the screen like tears. Tomorrow would change everything. The only question was, for whom? My living room had become a war room. Laura's laptop glowed beside mine on the coffee table, surrounded by empty coffee cups and takeout containers. Daniel paced behind us, his usual polished demeanor fraying at the edges. "These numbers are worse than we thought," Laura said, scrolling through Luna's files. "He's been cooking the books on at least 6 major projects. The Morrison deal is just the tip of the iceberg. But why risk it?" Daniel stopped pacing. "The company's doing well. The legitimate profits aren't enough for someone like Rylan," I finished, remembering his expensive suits, the luxury car, that vacation house he'd mentioned buying. He's been skimming for years, hiding it in inflated project costs and fake expenses. "Using other people's corporate cards," Laura added, "creating a paper trail that leads to everyone but him." My screen flickered with another incoming email from Rylan. Third one tonight, each subject line more urgent than the last. Daniel leaned over my shoulder. "You should answer him. Keep him thinking you're still his perfect protege." "No." I closed the laptop. The moment I engage, he'll start crafting a new narrative. Right now, he's off balance. Speaking of narratives, Laura turned her screen toward me. "Look what I found in the encrypted files." My breath caught. On the screen was a draft email, addressed to the board, detailing concerns about my handling of the Morrison project. The date was from 3 weeks ago, long before I'd discovered anything wrong. "He's been planning this for months," I whispered. "There's more." Laura's voice was gentle. "Remember that promotion you were up for last quarter? The one that went to Marcus instead? What about it? According to these emails, you were the board's first choice. Rylan blocked it." The revelation hit like a physical blow. All those extra hours I'd pulled, believing I just needed to prove myself more. All while he'd been actively holding me back, keeping me dependent on his mentorship. "Bastard," Daniel muttered. My phone lit up, Zoe calling. I almost declined until I remembered she worked in IT. "Savannah," her voice was hushed, urgent. "You need to get to the office. Now. It's almost midnight." They're moving faster than expected. The system audit is already running. By morning, on my way. I grabbed my coat. "Laura, Daniel, keep digging. Forward anything crucial to my personal email before they lock me out." "You can't go alone," Laura protested. "She won't." Daniel grabbed his keys. "I know the night security team. I'll get her in." The drive was tense, rain starting up again as we pulled into the empty parking garage. Daniel's security clearance got us through the lobby, but my heart still pounded with every camera we passed. 10 minutes, he whispered as we reached my floor. "I'll keep watch." My office looked untouched, but my computer was running, the audit program silently combing through years of emails and files. I pulled out Luna's USB drive, hands shaking slightly as I began the file transfer. A shadow fell across my desk. "I had a feeling you'd come." I spun to find Remington in the doorway, her expression unreadable. "Are you here to stop me?" I asked, my finger hovering over the keyboard. "No." She stepped inside, closing the door. "I'm here to help you understand what you're really up against." She placed a folder on my desk. "Before you go nuclear, you need to see this." Inside were photos. Rylan at dinner with various executives, including several board members. Private meetings, expensive restaurants, handshakes that looked more like promises. He's not working alone, I realized. The Morrison Project, it goes all the way up. Ryland's their golden boy because he makes certain problems disappear and certain profits appear. My carefully constructed plan suddenly felt naive. So even with proof, they'll bury it, and you. Remington's eyes held something like sympathy. Unless what? Unless you have something they can't bury, something that would hurt them more than it hurts you. A new email popped up on my screen, from Laura. She'd found something in Luna's files, something about offshore accounts and board member names. I might, I said slowly, but I'll need help. Remington studied me for a long moment. You understand there's no going back. Not from this. I thought of all the others who'd faced this choice, Melissa, Luna, Remington herself, each forced to decide between submission and destruction. Going back was never an option, I said. Not really. She nodded once, decision made. Then let's make it count this time. My phone buzzed again, Ryland's name lighting up the screen like a warning, but this time I smiled. Let him call, let him worry. Tomorrow wouldn't go the way he planned, not even close. Morning light filtered through the office windows, but I hadn't slept. My blazer felt like armor as I walked past familiar faces, wondering which ones knew what was coming. The USB drive in my pocket might as well have been radioactive. Savannah. Elijah's voice stopped me halfway to my desk. The senior executive rarely ventured to our floor. A word? His office was all mahogany and morning sun, the kind of space that screamed authority. I'd always admired it from afar. Now it felt like walking into a trap. Ryland tells me you've been raising concerns about the Morrison Project, he said, settling behind his desk. Just doing my due diligence. I kept my voice steady, professional. Some discrepancies caught my attention. Discrepancies. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. You know, I remember when Ryland first recommended you for the project. She's perfect, he said. Dedicated, thorough, maybe too thorough for her own good. The implied threat hung in the air between us. Funny thing about thoroughness, I said. Sometimes you find things you weren't meant to see, like offshore accounts linked to board member emails. His smile vanished. Careful, Savannah. Some doors are better left closed. I agree. I pulled out my phone, showing him the email I'd drafted last night. That's why I copied everything I found to 3 separate secure locations. If anything happens to me, or my position, or anyone who helped me. I let the threat hang. Elijah's face hardened. You're playing a dangerous game. No, I'm ending one that's destroyed too many careers and lives already. I stood, heart pounding but voice firm. Check your email in an hour. You'll want to see what I found before the board meeting. I was shaking by the time I reached my office. Laura was waiting inside. You okay? She asked. You look like you've seen a ghost. Just threatened a senior executive. I collapsed into my chair. Either I just signed my death warrant or bought us the time we need. She closed the door. Daniel found something about Melissa, the analyst who resigned. She didn't just resign. She tried to report Ryland first, to Elijah. Ice spread through my veins. The same Elijah I just threatened. It gets worse. Laura's voice dropped. 2 days after she filed the report, her entire work history was altered. Performance reviews, project documentation, everything. They erased 5 years of achievements overnight. My computer chimed. An incoming message from Remington. Meeting in conference room B, now. Bring everything. It's starting, I whispered. The conference room was eerily quiet when we arrived. Remington sat with Daniel and Luna, their faces grim. A laptop was open between them. They're moving faster than we thought, Remington said without preamble. Board meeting's been moved up to noon. They're planning to present evidence of your misconduct. But we have proof. They don't care about proof. Luna's voice shook. They care about protecting themselves. The story's already written. You're the ambitious young executive who manipulated data for personal gain. Ryland's the mentor who discovered the deception. Then we release everything, I said. All of it. The offshore accounts, the altered records. They'll bury you, Daniel cut in. Just like Melissa. No, I pulled out the USB drive. They won't, because this time we have something they didn't expect. I plugged in the drive, pulling up files Laura and I had discovered last night. Emails, transaction records, board member names linked to numbered accounts. Melissa documented everything, I explained. But she played it safe, went through proper channels. We won't make that mistake. What are you suggesting? Remington asked. We don't just expose Rylan. We expose everyone, the whole system. I met each of their eyes. But I won't ask any of you to risk. I'm in, Luna said immediately. Me too, Daniel added. Remington studied the screen, then nodded slowly. They'll come after all of us. Let them try. I straightened, feeling stronger with each ally. We have 2 hours until the board meeting. Time to remind them why you shouldn't back an honest person into a corner. My phone lit up. Rylan calling again. This time I answered. Savannah, his voice oozed concern. We need to talk about your recent behavior. Yes, we do, I cut him off. In fact, let's talk about it in front of the board. Noon work for you? Silence then. Don't do anything you'll regret. Too late. I ended the call, turning to my allies. Ready to burn it all down? 4 determined faces looked back at me. Outside, the morning sun climbed higher, counting down to noon. To truth, to justice, to war. 11:45. The conference room felt like a powder keg, each passing minute bringing us closer to detonation. Laura and Daniel were positioning laptops around the table, while Luna nervously checked and rechecked our documentation. They're calling in security, Remington announced, striding in. Extra guards posted at every entrance, and... She hesitated. Zoe from IT just got escorted out. My stomach dropped. What? Why? They found out she warned us about the audit. She's been suspended pending investigation. Another casualty, another life disrupted because of me. The weight of it all pressed down like a physical force. We can still stop, Luna whispered. Walk away. Maybe if we delete everything. It's too late for that. Daniel's voice was grim. They're already moving against us. If we back down now... The door opened. Rylan stood there, immaculate as always, flanked by 2 men I didn't recognize. Savannah. His smile was pure predator. I thought we might have a private chat before the board meeting, clear up any misunderstandings. Nothing to clear up, I said, proud of how steady my voice remained. Everything's quite clear now. Is it? He stepped closer. Because from where I stand, I see a talented young executive about to throw away a promising career. Over what? Some accounting irregularities, office politics. Over fraud, manipulation, lives destroyed. Lives built, he corrected. Every person in this room has benefited from the system you're so eager to tear down. Ask Remington about her bonus last quarter. Or Daniel about his client portfolio. I glanced at them. Neither would meet my eyes. You see? Rylan's voice softened. We're all part of the same machine, Savannah. Sometimes the gears need greasing. That's all. And Melissa, was she just a gear that needed greasing? Something dangerous flashed in his eyes. Melissa made choices. Poor ones. Don't make the same mistake. Actually, a new voice said, I'd say her choices were excellent. We all turned. Melissa herself stood in the doorway, elegant and composed. Beside her was Elijah, holding a familiar red Cartier box. Interesting gift this, Elijah said, setting the box on the table. Purchased with a corporate card, logged as a client expense, then gifted to an employee who never actually received it. Just one small thread in a very tangled web. Rylan's facade cracked slightly. Elijah, whatever she's told you. She hasn't told me anything, yet. Elijah turned to me. But I believe you have something to share, Savannah. Understanding dawned. My earlier confrontation with Elijah hadn't been a threat. It had been an opportunity. A chance to prove I'd do what Melissa couldn't. Stand my ground. "Everything's ready," I said, nodding to Laura. She began connecting the laptops to the conference room displays. Rylan moved suddenly, reaching for the nearest computer, but Daniel blocked his path. "Don't," Daniel warned. "It's over." "Nothing's over," Rylan snarled. "You really think they'll believe you over me? I built this department. I made all of you." "And now we're unmaking you," Melissa said quietly. The door opened again. Board members began filing in, their faces a mix of confusion and concern. I caught fragments of whispered conversations, something about emergency meetings, regulatory concerns, stock prices. "Last chance," Rylan said under his breath. "Walk away now. Keep your career. Stay, and I'll make sure you never work in this industry again." I thought of all the moments that had led here, the late nights, the praise, the careful grooming, the gifts that were really chains, the mentorship that was really manipulation. "You know what your mistake was?" I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "You taught me too well, showed me exactly how the game is played." I turned to the assembled board. "Shall we begin?" Rylan's mask finally shattered. He lunged for me, but security, the same guards he'd called to intimidate us, caught his arms. "You have no idea what you're doing," he spat. "Actually," I picked up the Cartier box, placed it deliberately in front of him. "I know exactly what I'm doing. I'm returning your gift." Laura started the presentation. Numbers, emails, and transaction records filled the screens. The board members' faces shifted from confusion to shock to something darker. Rylan struggled against the guards. "This is all circumstantial." "The offshore accounts aren't," Melissa cut in. "Neither are the altered personnel records," added Luna. "Or the fraudulent client signatures," Daniel finished. I stood at the head of the table, surrounded by allies. Not just colleagues anymore, but fellow survivors of Rylan's manipulation. "Now," I addressed the board, "let's talk about exactly how deep this corruption goes, because I promise you, this is just the beginning." The room fell silent except for the hum of electronics and Rylan's heavy breathing. Outside, the noon sun blazed through the windows, illuminating everything we'd kept in shadow for so long. It was time for light. The next 2 hours were a blur of revelations and denials. Board members shifted from dismissive to defensive to desperate as each layer of corruption emerged. Through it all, I remained standing, my voice steady, as I guided them through years of systematic fraud. "These signatures," I highlighted a contract on the screen, "were forged after the clients had already rejected the terms. The real agreements show completely different numbers." "That's impossible," one board member protested. "Our audit team was deliberately understaffed and misdirected," Melissa cut in. "I have emails proving it." Rylan sat silent now, his earlier rage replaced by calculating observation. That scared me more than his outburst had. A cornered predator was most dangerous when quiet. "Even if these allegations are true," another board member said, "going public would devastate shareholder value. Thousands of employees would suffer." "They're already suffering," Luna spoke up, her usual timidity gone. "Every person whose career was destroyed, every project manipulated, every client deceived, the damage is already done." "What do you want?" Elijah asked quietly. All eyes turned to me. The question hit harder than expected. What did I want? Revenge? Justice? The truth was both simpler and more complicated. "I want accountability," I said. "Real change, not just scapegoats and cover-ups. Starting with a full external audit and—" "I admit everything." Rylan's voice cut through the room like a blade. He stood slowly, straightening his tie. "The fraud, the manipulation, all of it," he continued. "I acted alone, used my position to deceive everyone, including the board." My pulse quickened. This wasn't surrender. This was strategy. "These dedicated employees," he gestured to us, "discovered my schemes and bravely brought them to light. They deserve commendation, not punishment." The board members exchanged glances. A perfect solution was being offered. One villain, a clean narrative, minimal disruption. No, I said. Ryland's eyes narrowed. Savannah, I'm confessing. Giving you what you wanted. What I want is the truth. All of it. I turned to the board. He's offering himself as a sacrifice to protect the system that enabled him. But look at these authorization codes. Look at who signed off on the offshore transfers. Careful, one board member warned. You're making accusations. I'm stating facts, I shot back. Facts documented in files that, as of an hour ago, are in the hands of 3 separate law firms. If anything happens to anyone in this room, if anyone faces retaliation, those files go public. Silence fell. I could feel Laura and Daniel's tension, Luna's fear, Melissa's quiet support. Everything hinged on this moment. Ryland moved with startling speed, grabbing my arm. You ungrateful... Several things happened at once. Security stepped forward. Daniel moved to intervene, but it was Remington who reached us first, her hand closing around Ryland's wrist. Let her go, she said quietly, or I release the recordings. Recordings? Ryland's grip loosened. Of every private conversation in your office for the past year, including some very interesting calls with board members. She smiled coldly. You taught me too well, too. He released me, stepping back. For the first time, I saw real fear in his eyes. Here's what's going to happen. I addressed the room. A full investigation, external auditors, complete transparency. Anyone who cooperates gets consideration. Anyone who doesn't, I let the threat hang. You're destroying decades of work, Ryland said hoarsely. Everything we built was built on lies, I finished. And now we're going to rebuild it right. The board members were already on their phones, damage control instincts kicking in. But it was too late. The truth was out, documented, and distributed too widely to bury. Security, Elijah said quietly, please escort Mr. Gill to his office. He'll need to pack his things. As Ryland was led out, he paused beside me. I made you, he whispered. No, I replied. You tried to break me. There's a difference. The room slowly emptied until only our small group remained. Laura hugged me fiercely. Daniel clapped my shoulder. Luna looked like she might faint from relief. What happens now? Melissa asked. I looked around at these people who'd risked everything for truth, for justice, for each other. The morning sun had given way to afternoon shadows, but the air felt clearer somehow. Lighter. Now, I said, we fix what's broken, together. Remington picked up the Cartier box, that first symbol of manipulation that had started it all. Without a word, she dropped it in the trash, where it had always belonged. The evening sun painted long shadows across my office as I packed the last of my personal items. Not because I was leaving, quite the opposite. Tomorrow I'd move into a larger space on the executive floor, part of my new role leading the company's ethics and compliance overhaul. A soft knock drew my attention. Laura stood in the doorway, holding a familiar red box. Found this in the conference room trash, she said. Thought you might want it after all. I took the Cartier box, its weight different now. No longer a collar or a trap, just an expensive reminder. Actually, I said, I have a better idea. The women's shelter was quiet at this hour, just a few staff members at the front desk. The director, Sarah, greeted us warmly. Ms. Ellis, we weren't expecting you until next week's board meeting. This isn't an official visit. I handed her the box. Consider it a donation. Should cover a few months of operational costs. Sarah's eyes widened as she opened it. This is... Are you sure? Very, I smiled. Sometimes the best way to heal is to turn something painful into something good. Walking back to my car, Laura linked her arm through mine. You know, when this all started, I was terrified for you. Now I'm just proud. It's not over yet, I reminded her. The external auditors are still digging. There will be more revelations, more resistance. But not alone this time. She was right. My phone buzzed with updates from our newly formed oversight committee. Daniel had uncovered 3 more suspicious projects. Luna was reconstructing years of altered records. Melissa was developing new compliance protocols. Even Remington, despite her past compromises, was proving invaluable in identifying vulnerable points in the system. Another message popped up, from Elijah. Board approved your proposal. Full immunity for whistleblowers. It's official. Good news? Laura asked, noting my smile. The best kind. The kind that protects people. Back in the parking garage, I spotted a familiar luxury car, Ryland's, still in his reserved spot. Tomorrow it would be gone, along with all the other trappings of his carefully constructed facade. You never told me, Laura said as we reached my car. That night when you found the receipt, did you know then what you were starting? I thought back to that moment, the first crack in my perfect mentor's mask. No, I just knew I couldn't be part of the lie anymore. Even if it cost you everything. Some prices are worth paying. I unlocked my car, then paused. Though I never expected to gain more than I lost, Laura hugged me goodbye, heading to her own car. Alone, I sat in the gathering darkness, thinking of all the moments that had led here, the gifts that were really tests, the praise that was really poison, the choices that seemed impossible until they were made. My phone lit up one last time, an unknown number. Hello? Savannah? Ryland's voice stripped of its usual polish. I just wanted you to know, I meant what I said, about your potential. I know you did. That's what made you dangerous. We could have done great things together. No, I said firmly. You would have done things through me. There's a difference. A long pause. You really think you can change things? The system's bigger than any of us. Maybe, but doing nothing changes nothing. Careful, he said softly. That kind of idealism can get expensive. Some things are worth the cost. I started my car. Goodbye, Rylan. I ended the call before he could respond. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new battles, new attempts to maintain the status quo. But tonight, driving home through the city lights, I felt something I hadn't experienced since finding that first receipt. Peace. Not because the fight was over. It was just beginning. Not because victory was certain. Nothing ever was. But because I'd finally learned the truth about power. It doesn't lie in the ability to manipulate others, but in the courage to stand firm when they try to manipulate you. The Cartier bracelet would help women escape their own toxic situations. Ryland's carefully constructed system was crumbling, and I was exactly where I needed to be. Not a protégé or a victim, or even a victor. Just someone who chose truth over comfort, right over easy, and found herself stronger for it. Sometimes the most valuable gifts are the ones we give ourselves, like the power to say no, the strength to stand alone, and the wisdom to recognize that, in the end, we rarely are.